rundown of the agenda for today. I'll be starting out. I'm Sean McCoy with Inside Sources. We'll then have Governor Rick Perry, followed by Governor Bobby Jindal, and Senator Rick Santorum.
If you want to go ahead and take one of those media seats front and center, you might have a better shot.
Okay, thanks.
Governor Perry, Governor Jindal, and Senator Santorum. Thank you.
Excuse me. Yeah. I don't want to spoil your drink. Excuse me?
Sure.
Oops, sorry.
Pass these real quick.
Ah, sure.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Ooh, this is better.
It might crawl over you a little bit too.
That's okay. I can jack this up some more. This is Occupier Kaylin coming to you live from inside the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates, where presidential candidate and Governor Rick Perry will come to speak, plus some others, and there will be some interesting things going on. And I got on here under media with my press pass as well as my online ticket. So as soon as Perry gets up here, we'll get this thing going and see what happens later. There's a whole lot of media here, different types, and I got my monopod jacked up because I'm sitting, but every once in a while we'll try to check the chat. So stay tuned and enjoy the show.
He always goes. I don't see him now. I just talking to him outside. But you don't have to sit at
There's another seat here that's open.
Okay. I'll go around and try to get you.
Well, yesterday we had a lunch. And I was out. Right at the end. Looking at the food tree.
Duct tape, that's a fix-all for everything. Or better yet, Gorilla Tape.
Yeah, that's good too.
Are you recording right now?
Sure.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today's cover.
I'm gonna sneak past you. I want to go grab my bag. I got to sneak past you. I want to grab my bag from over here.
Sure.
Excuse me. Can I get my bag from behind you, please?
Okay. For what?
Yeah, that one. It's pretty heavy.
I'm still working out. I think I got you.
Thanks. Coming back. No, I won't bother you anymore. I want to grab my bag from where I was earlier.
We've been told we're not allowed to ask questions, so
Well, if you want
I probably shouldn't have
Go ahead.
asked. I should have just gone out there.
I just want to grab my bag because
Sometimes you're
The thing
better than
is,
bait.
it's hard to run out there and get back. Can't ambush him on the stairs either, you know?
I'm sticking you
Yeah.
in my purse for a second because I got some pills that I want to take before I get this thing going.
Yeah. I like give you a chance to say something at that point. Yeah. We'll have to see.
Like, I'm not going to You're going to ask me.
I'm working the press and you're in the press. Yes. Well, one of you guys already talked to me. Yeah, I don't know. So they're covered already.
I'm just curious, are you trying to gain who's in the audience here?
So if you
Stealing
want
a
a different point of view,
conversation.
we're here for that.
Okay. Oh, you guys are together?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of us here.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I've already seen, you seen anybody from the opposition research for the Democratic Party here? I saw one for sure.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I was wondering if the Iowa Environmental Council was
Isn't one of the guys here?
KCCI.
Yeah, I thought we had one guy.
The seat taken right here.
So you're the
It's open. Available.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Is this seat taken?
Yeah, I would like that. That's all okay.
Thank you, Cindy.
Great.
Yeah, I believe. Looks like we might. Is this seat open for someone to sit?
Sure.
Yeah. It's, okay. Yeah, this one is.
Little, but not really. Like my parents. These
Oops, sorry, I'm just readjusting here because
So we just get some reaction. Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea.
I was hoping I would like
I want to clear some of these. Check on my battery, see if it's okay. That's 60%, so that should get me going for a little while. For those just tuning in, this is Occupier Kaylin coming to you live from inside the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates. And Governor Rick Perry will be one of the speakers.
I just want my big head's in your way, right?
No, that's okay. I brought it down, but I'll put it back up.
You know what? You should get
I've seen bigger heads.
call it surgeons.
Yeah.
The big KCCA sticker like we have in center. You put it on the bottom, and then stick that in.
The question is it filled with a big brain?
Huh?
Is it filled with is your big head filled with a big brain?
I hope so. The filing system gets a little messed up now with age, so you know they've
It's a good way of putting it. Filing system. I've
yeah.
heard that one.
Yeah. Being dyslexic doesn't help either. You know, so I'm very verbal, but
57.
yeah, very good with writing skills.
Well,
But
it says you can get the 2-for-1 if you go to
When you can't remember something.
that happened 20 years ago, but you can't remember anything that happened
I
yesterday.
can remember them. And that's the argument. Your short-term memory goes. I'm probably older than you are, but it's annoying. You can't remember something 2 minutes ago, and you think, what the heck? But I can remember a telephone number I haven't written, I haven't called in 50 years.
Why do you think I got lists I write down stuff on?
That's the smart thing to do. There's no
Yeah.
shame in doing that. Just to say, you know what?
But then sometimes the list gets disorganized and you have to reassess, you
You got
know?
a better shot than just trying to remember. You
Yeah.
go to the store, try to
And I'm
remember
so-
all the groceries you're supposed to. I can't do it.
And then you come back with a whole bunch of crap that you weren't supposed to get. Yeah.
Because you went hungry. But and I'm better with names and faces than names and terrible names, people and places. I'm good with that. But names, I always have to reintroduce myself.
It's a mystery of the human mind. You'll never know why yours is different than mine.
Yeah, we're all unique.
That's you took the words right out of my mouth. That's what makes us human.
Yep.
Who's here with WI today? You know?
I just see the camera and see it.
Camera person probably went to go get a drink or make a pit stop.
What are you here with the press for who?
I'm independent.
Independent, freelance, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a live streamer.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So you've been following all the candidates?
Well, that's kind of difficult when you don't drive.
Yeah,
But anything local, I stream
you do.
if I can get to it. Yeah. By bus or sometimes bum a ride. I was at the Capitol earlier today.
Oh, yeah, they were all up there too, weren't they?
Yeah,
With
the
one
homeschool
little
day,
bee?
and then there was some noise about some of the candidates being there, but Rick Santorum was actually in a private meeting, so never even got to see him.
He's meeting with the higher mucky mucks on the Republican side, you know?
Yeah. Not surprised. Yeah, I got into streaming with the Occupy movement.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your web address?
My Ustream, it's on ustream.tv,
Yeah, I know that.
and then channel/the-occupied-tent.
What?
The-occupied-tent. Yeah, that's my channel name.
Occupy the hyphen.
Yeah, the-occupied-tent.
Okay. All right. Check it out. I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
You're covering both sides of the fence? Covering Democrats too?
Anybody's fair game.
Yeah.
Well, and then they like lean out.
And cheer. You know, I got it. Somebody had state basketball.
Yeah.
And are like, it's like on me.
I'll wait till he starts introduction. I think people being quiet and listening. You'll get some cutaways. I don't think we're going to need very many.
pulling this down, still waiting for the speaker to start. So when I jack this up, I won't be able to check the chat as easy because I can't read it that several feet away. I have to have it right in front of my eyes. And I'm hoping this will start pretty soon because I'm burning juice. I'm plugged into my power pack. So hopefully that'll keep me going for a little while.
Yeah, we like Doug and he doesn't like all the I was talking to Doug the other day.
Is that the same thing as a selfie?
Yeah, selfie stick monopod. But this had swivels like this, and
It'll accommodate any size.
yeah. See, this one is adjustable. I can put my tablet on it.
Oh yeah, very cool.
I just put this ring there. Just otherwise, it would go all the way through here.
Today, just to get above the crowd in front of you.
Yep. And I can sit, so it's more comfortable.
Great idea.
They don't want to live in D.C. Well, I don't blame him from that standpoint, but how tough is it for him to be gone for her? That's 2 days. I suppose. Well, I don't think it started with that.
No, it's definitely late.
Yeah, like most events.
He said he moved her up and down the hills of Arlington Cemetery for 3 hours. That was really good.
So were they just out there just so she could see her?
It's her 85th birthday. She never around down in, so he and her daughter said, yes. And he always had
All right.
I think we're going to get the show on the road. Adjusting that a little bit.
I know I got it. There we go.
If I'm in your way, give me a yell.
You're okay.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out today. I'm Sean McCoy, the publisher of Inside Sources. We're a year-old news site that provides breaking news, commentary, and a platform for thoughtful discussion. Inside Sources is involved with the event today and with this entire Road to 2016 series because we think it's important to encourage discussion on vital issues such as energy, taxes, infrastructure, and technology ahead of the 2016 elections. Today is our inaugural Road to 2016 event, and we have more of these planned. In fact, next week will be our second event. That will be back in Washington, D.C. on Tax Day, featuring Congressman Dave Reichert, a subcommittee chairman on the Ways and Means Committee. For today's event, we're very proud to have an all-star lineup to discuss EPA regulations and their effect on Iowa's economy. We'll be hearing from Congressman David Young from Iowa's 3rd Congressional District, former Texas Governor Rick Perry, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, and former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. I'll note that we invited all the likely presidential candidates from both parties to attend today, And for those who were not able to join us, we hope that they'll be able to make it to a future event. I'm very grateful for these speakers coming out today, and I know that each will be able to offer a valuable policy perspective. Texas, Pennsylvania, and Louisiana are 3 of the top 5 energy-producing states in this country. And Iowa has grown significantly in its energy production via wind and biofuels. Yet it is still heavily reliant on coal-powered electricity. Today's speakers are very knowledgeable about how energy policy affects each and every one of us, and they understand the impact of EPA regulations on Iowa's economy. I'm very grateful to America's Power for sponsoring today's event. It wouldn't have been possible without their support. They're driving the conversation on how to deliver reliable, low-cost, dependable power to America's families and businesses. It's been a pleasure to work with them, and you'll find more information on their website at americaspower.org. On the back of your program is all the information you need for social media today. I'd also like to welcome some locally elected officials who are in attendance. Senator David Johnson, Representative Gary Carlson, Representative Rob Hogg, and Representative John Landon. Before we begin, I'll remind everyone to silence your ringers. And while I understand this is Iowa, and we like a spirited discussion of policy ahead of the election, today is intended for a thoughtful policy discussion. Anyone causing a disruption will be politely asked to leave. With that, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker. I've known Congressman David Young for several years now. I met him when he was Senator Grassley's chief of staff. He's very knowledgeable about the issues that affect Iowans. And I'm very grateful to him because when I launched Inside Sources, he was the very first interview to appear on our site. And in that interview, which was on energy and tech policy, he was willing to conduct that before we even had a website. So he's been involved with Inside Sources since the beginning. And as most of you know, Congressman Young was elected to represent Iowa's 3rd Congressional District this past November. He was appointed to serve on the influential House Appropriations Committee, which is responsible for allocating funding to federal agencies and departments while being a watchdog to make sure that money is well spent. The Congressman says his mission is to make government more efficient, effective, and accountable. And I'm sure that today he'll be able to offer an important perspective on the impact that EPA regulations are having on Iowans. Please join me in welcoming Congressman David Young.
Well, good afternoon, folks. How are we? Isn't this a great room? This is great. It's great to be here. You're probably wondering what I'm doing here on a Thursday afternoon. We are in our congressional April district work period recess. And so when we're not voting, I'm here in the district. The Republic is safe for the rest of the week. But you know, when I say that in jest, but at the same time, things are still going on in these agencies and these departments. There's a lot of rules and regulations that are rolling out that we have to watch as well. And a lot of them are coming out from the EPA and affecting our way of life here and can threaten really parts of our economy and our way of life here in Iowa. Good afternoon. Here at the Inside Sources to 2016, informing the energy debate to discuss some great important topics that dominate a lot of the discussion that I'm having with folks around the district. We have a great group of speakers here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing from them. 3 prospective, possibly, folks who want to run for president. It's not official yet, but we're glad you're in Iowa. We like to pick presidents in Iowa, don't we? We are the heartland. We are here in the middle of the country, geographically. But as well, you look at our politics. We're pretty much split in our registration, a 3rd registered Democrat, a 3rd Republican, a 3rd no party. And so we have a pretty good temperature and pulse on the issues. And I tell you what, if you want to sit down with the presidential candidate, you can in Iowa. And we encourage these candidates to go out, not just in Cedar Rapids or Des Moines or Council Bluffs or Sioux City, but get to Creston, get to Van Meter where I'm from, get to Waukee, get out to Adel, get out to Hamburg, go to the Popcorn Days Parade. I've been there. It's great. Good popcorn. We're very discerning folks here in Iowa. and we like to kick the tires. You know, we complain about sometimes all the commercials, more candidates, and another election coming up, but we should honor the privilege that we have of being first in the nation, and we need to keep that, because better Iowa pick our presidents than New York or California. Nothing against them personally, but we need the perspective here, and we can do it. So, better Iowa. When it comes to energy needs and solutions, I agree with the all of the above approach. We need to have a diverse energy portfolio out there. We're really proud that we set the example for diversifying America's energy products and developments. Take just a few years ago, for example. Our electricity in Iowa was generated from a variety of sources. 58% from coal, 27% from wind, 9% from nuclear, and the remaining 5% from natural gas, hydropower, solar, and solar is growing as well, and other renewables. And we lead the nation in ethanol production, and is second in biodiesel production. In 2014 alone, Iowa produced 28% of the entire nation's ethanol, nearly 3.9 billion gallons. Iowa is also a great leader in wind energy production. As I mentioned, just over 27%. We're the #1 state in the nation doing that. We're the first state to have 20% of all electrical generation come from wind energy. And to put that all into perspective, that is nearly 1.5 million homes in Iowa powered by wind. We're proud of that distinction. In Iowa, we understand that an investment in wind power is an investment in jobs. Iowa is ranked 3rd in the U.S. for installed wind capacity in wind turbines. The best part is we have potential to grow. But that growth depends on a healthy economy, right? And how do we get to a healthy economy? Well, I talked about those rules and regulations that are coming out in an unparalleled fashion from our EPA and other departments and agencies. And you know what? Congress, in a way, has abrogated its authority in allowing this to happen. One of the most dangerous sentences at the end of a bill is, and Congress shall give authority to such and such agency to promulgate the rules and regulations affiliated with this law. Wow, that is a blank check, isn't it? It really is. We need to take that back. And my preference is to have Congress vote on rules and regulations. We need to know what the cost benefit is and the economic impact that it has on our lives. Look at what the EPA is trying to do. Cap and trade. What does that do to our power rates, manufacturing, our agricultural industry? Look what the EPA is trying to do with just trying to define water under the Clean Water Act, what that would do to our communities, especially the rural areas. And then, how can we have a healthy economy if we don't have certainty, right? Especially when it comes to our tax code. How many pages in the tax code, folks? It's like an auction. Do I hear 60,000, 75,000 pages? Now, if you think if you have insomnia and cannot sleep at night, I would take that tax code. Page 1, you'll be sleeping. Hopefully, you won't be having nightmares. But it does give nightmares to some folks in their day-to-day lives of trying to understand the tax code. People need certainty. Our economy needs certainty. I would like to see permanence and certainty in our tax code because I've met so many Iowans. They have some capital, and they want to invest in this economy, and they want to create jobs. But if you don't know the rules, a few years, 10 years out, 15 years out, you're going to sit on your capital. We have a patchwork tax code. Sometimes things expire. We have to go back retroactively. It's a mess. I want to thank you for being here today. This is very important. We can unleash this economy with energy, our energy portfolio, with the all of the above strategy, but we need certainty. It's a privilege to be here. You didn't come here to listen to me. You come here to listen to some other people who really have a great perspective from this, from their days as governors, and understanding the situation a little better. And also from some folks here, I believe one of our guests was in the Senate as well and led on some of these issues. But they're all leaders, and it's a privilege to be here. I'm from Van Meter. We have an office here in Des Moines, Creston, and Council Bluffs. If you're ever in Washington, D.C., we're on the 5th floor of Cannon, 515 Cannon. Now, it was built in 4 floors, And so the elevators only go to 4 floors. And then you got to go down a hall and take these stairs or another elevator. So I'm not lying to you when I say there's 5 floors. It's an honor to serve you. I take the gravity and weight of this office very seriously. There are some big issues out there. But I believe the best days of America are ahead. I really do. We've been through some tough times, but we're Iowans. It's in our DNA to work, to collaborate, to be creative and get things done and sacrifice for one another. We can do that as a country. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for allowing me to serve you.
I'm just going to check my...
Thank you, Congressman. Our next speaker is the 47th and longest-serving governor of Texas, which is our country's largest energy-producing state. Under Governor Rick Perry, Texas created 1/3 of all private sector jobs in America. Without Texas's job growth, America would have had a net loss of jobs between the start of the recession and 2014. Governor Perry is a 5th-generation Texan and a veteran of the United States Air Force. He is a graduate of Texas A&M. He and his childhood sweetheart, Anita, have 2 children and 2 granddaughters. Please join me in welcoming former Texas Governor Rick Perry.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you for moderating the panel today. And I was with David Young last night, a great, refreshing voice in the United States Congress, and a person who learned well from one of the great public servants, in my opinion, Senator Grassley. I asked him, I said, how long had it been since Senator Grassley has missed a vote? And he said, well, he missed one, but he said, I think it was back in 1993. And someone who reflects that Iowa spirit, if you will, of going to all 99 counties and seeing, and David has learned his lessons well and is representing this part of the state and assisting that Republican majority in Congress today. I want to recognize some other really good friends that are here today. People are going to share the stage with me and people who have a very vital role in what I consider to be the revival of the American energy industry in this country. Bobby Jindal is a great governor. I know. I have to compete with him. I woke up every day and looked to the east while I was the governor of Texas since 2007-8 time frame, because I knew that Bobby was over there thinking about how to make Louisiana more friendly to business. And he knows the vital role that energy plays, not only in Louisiana, but in this country. And the other really extraordinary fellow that's going to be on this stage is Rick Santorum, from the great state of Pennsylvania, home of the Marcellus Shale. He has been a tremendous voice in this country, standing up for working families, for men and women who get their hands dirty every day. And from my days on the campaign trail, he and I have become really good friends. As a matter of fact, I got to spend some time with his sons this last week, or actually earlier this week on Monday when I was in Charleston at the Citadel. He's got 2 really fabulous kids that go to school over there, and he is a good man. And a very, very important voice in our party. You see, his home state made a decision to develop the resources of that Marcellus Shale. And it created thousands of jobs in that northern part of Pennsylvania. And not just for the energy companies. I'm talking about those ancillary jobs that are created when the energy is developed in a particular region of this country. The steel shops. These are men and women who, blue-collar workers, in some cases union workers, who understand that their ability to take care of their family is inextricably intertwined with the energy industry. And I will suggest that that is a a story that needs to be retold time and time again across this country in those regions. It's the steel workers, it's the pipe fitters, it's the hotel industries that are all benefiting from the development of the energy resources that we have in this country. And you look at it, when Pennsylvania was creating all of those jobs, the state of New York was saying, no thanks. That shell formation, it's really an interesting juxtaposition. One shell formation, two different states, and two very different outcomes relative to the economy. You cross across the state line from Pennsylvania into New York. There are two Uticas, Utica, Pennsylvania, Utica, New York. And it is a stark difference economically in those two regions of our country. That's the problem with the discussion about energy policy and the environment today. Because New York made that decision not to be involved in the Marcellus Shale play because of their concerns about how it was going to affect the environment. And that's a great example of this challenge that we have in the country today. I happen to think we've become too polarized. I hope that we as a people have the same goal of creating jobs and good jobs for our families. It's this challenge of bringing us together and the way we get to that goal. We're too narrowly focused on appeasing a political base. Unfortunately, I think that's the reason the President of the United States vetoed the XL pipeline, a project that could help create North American energy security. But he wanted to appease this ideological constituency in his party. And we've had 6 years of dividing America on the basis of party and ideology. I think it's time we had leadership that brought America together, that set us on a course to revive the economy, restore our standing in the world, and I happen to think it starts with energy and energy policy. Today, America leads the world in natural gas production, surpassing Russia. The energy rush has once again come to America. My home state is at the epicenter of that. But it's truly a national phenomenon when you look at the Bakken field that has transformed a relatively small state like North Dakota. That Marcellus Shale that I mentioned earlier in Pennsylvania and southern New York and in western Virginia, the Utica Shale play in Ohio, the Haynesville over in Arkansas, the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale in Mississippi, I suggest to you will in the future have the same economic impact to dramatically improve the economy of that state. I think the possibilities are almost limitless. But it takes entrepreneurs to develop the innovations that change the energy marketplace. It also takes a president with the vision to change the world economy. The surge in oil and gas production, it allows us the opportunity to reshape the global economy, eliminating our dependence on states that control massive sources of energy. We talked about last night that Canada, the United States, and Mexico, a region that has more natural resources, known reserves, than Russia and Saudi Arabia. And I'm pretty sure I would rather have my friends in Canada, or in Mexico for that matter, that I can rely upon for energy resources rather than Venezuela or some of these Middle Eastern countries that don't particularly have our best interest in mind. When we think about what we see happening on the global stage, how natural gas that we are now producing in this country could be used to help liberate Europe again from my perspective, a rather despotic type of individual in the form of Vladimir Putin, and his using energy as a weapon in a very aggressive way. And I think we need to talk plainly about the stakes. Our energy policy is a driving force of both our economic prosperity and our national security. One of the most profound ways to enhance national security, to bring stability around the globe, because I'm one of those that believe that Ronald Reagan understood it very well. When America's strong, the world is a safer place. How we change the dynamic around the globe is to aggressively market American energy around the globe. We see how energy can be used in a malignant way through the actions by Russia. Energy is a weapon in the hands of an aggressor. So I say, if energy is going to be used as a weapon, America needs to have the largest arsenal. That arsenal of American energy will not, however, be used to bully other nations, but to set them free. Nations like Poland, who are in the process today of building LNG terminals on the northern part of that country to bring in, hopefully, gas from the Gulf Coast region of this country. They're a country that needs access to that marketplace, and one that I will suggest to you will force Moscow to compete in the energy marketplace. Years ago, when the president withdrew our commitment to build a missile shield for Europe, the result of that was his actions emboldened Russia, which now, as we know, have annexed Crimea. They have sent soldiers to fight in the Ukraine. While we seek peace in Russia, and we seek peace with Russia, we know that Mr. Putin is not particularly swayed by lofty rhetoric. He understands power. He understands strength. The first order of business to restore balance to Europe is for America to build an energy shield in Europe to protect our strategic allies. That means we must accelerate the export of America's vast energy resources, starting with accelerating that export of liquefied natural gas from those terminals along the United States Gulf Coast. Our federal agencies should stop denying those permits and expedite those LNG permits as quickly as possible. We need a North American energy plan, and it needs to start with American energy being exported around the globe. The president likes to claim that energy production increased during his time in office, and he's correct. We had a 61% increase in the private sector production of energy. We had a 6% decrease on federal lands and federal waters. While they're contemplating these new rules that are hindering shale production. So yeah, the president likes American energy. He just doesn't want to drill for it or transport it or sell it. And the administration is very fond of pitting the environment against the economy. I happen to believe that you can choose both. And there's a reason for that. Because that's exactly what occurred in the 13th largest economy in the world. I'm making reference to my home state. We have led the nation in the creation of jobs. From the end of 2007 through the end of 2014. 1.5 million jobs were created in that state. At the same time, the other 49 states collectively lost 400,000 jobs. There was 5.6 million people added to the population rolls of that state. Now that means a lot of pickup trucks and cars, right? I mean, a lot of non-point source pollution. Here's what happened. You saw nitrogen oxide levels go down by 62.5%. You saw sulfur dioxide down by 50%, ozone down by 23%, and carbon footprint in the state of Texas went down 9% during that period of time of massive job growth and population increase. No matter whether you're on the left or the right, wasn't that the goal? Isn't that our goal in this country? To create jobs, to create wealth, to give that people a better quality of life, at the same time affect in a positive way our environment. I challenge anyone to legitimately say that's a bad outcome. But our Environmental Protection Agency rules that are being contemplated today, like the Clean Power Plan, it may be well-intentioned. And again, I hope that this conversation that we have as a country, that we can agree that what happened in my home state's a good thing. But how we get there, we can have the conversation. But to really do it with good hearts. Do it with the challenge to make for a better America, a better country, a better world. What's the cost going to be to these new EPA regulations? That's the question. David spot on got it right. Congress needs to be involved in this process and ask that question about what's the cost versus the benefit. There are going to be 43 states that experience double-digit electricity rate increases. If the vision for this country is to use North American energy to drive down the cost of electricity coupled with good corporate tax policy to drive down the corporate tax rate, we've got the highest corporate tax rate in the Western world. I mean, if the plan is to have an optimistic message for the next generation of Americans, or for those of us that are here now for that matter, that we can have a great future in this country tied to our energy policy. If we drive down those electricity rates and create a manufacturing renaissance like this country's never seen before, that's possible. We can do this. But you can't do it if there's going to be 43 states that see their electricity rates more than double. I mean, that makes it impossible. It's going to cost this country, by one estimate, $300 billion. That's real money. And it's going to just put us at a huge competitive disadvantage with China, with India. And the EPA is also, as David shared with you, they're proposing a rule change to clarify the Clean Water Act. I will suggest to you this is just classic federal overreach. It doesn't clarify federal oversight over lakes and wetlands. It expands it to millions of acres. I think people who are the best stewards of our resources are the people right here now. I know for a fact that this one-size-fits-all mandate that comes out of Washington, D.C. is not needed to keep our air clean or our water drinkable, potable, usable. I happen to believe that lies with the states. You have every incentive to make sure that the air that you breathe is clean, the water that you drink is safe, and the soil of this state is handed off to the next generation in as good a shape or better than what you found it. I know that's where the better stewards of our environment live. If we're going to revive the American economy, if we're going to need to reel in this regulatory state that we find at the federal level, not expand it. Now, I happen to think that that's not going to happen. A little biased here. So we have a Republican president to work with a Republican Congress. Now, it might surprise a few of you in here. I've been thinking about 2016. I've been traveling across Iowa. I've been listening to the common sense, salt of the earth, men and women of this state. If I do decide, I will restore freedom to individuals and sovereignty to the states. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Perry. Our next speaker is currently in his second term as governor of Louisiana. His policies are focused on making government smaller and more efficient without raising taxes. Governor Bobby Jindal has enacted some of the toughest ethics laws in the country, and his education reforms have cut in half the number of failing schools in Louisiana. Louisiana has also seen strong economic growth since he became governor. 91,000 new jobs have been created, and the state has brought in $62 billion in capital investment. Last September, Governor Jindal announced a plan for how to make America an energy superpower. I was very pleased to have him write on that subject for Inside Sources. Please join me in welcoming Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal.
I was saying hello to my neighbor Rick Perry out there, so thank y'all very much. Thank you for that generous introduction. Thank you for that warm welcome. It is great to be back here with you, and it is great to be here to talk about what I think is a very important topic. Now, I do want to talk today about energy. I want to talk to you today about the overreach of the EPA and the federal government. I know we're here to talk about the water rule, the CO2 rule, as well as the ozone rule. I want to put this in a context, because what we're seeing right now is not an aberration. It is not random. This is part of a pattern. You know, there are a lot of things that I worry about in Washington, D.C. There are a lot of things I disagree about with the Obama administration. From their assault on religious liberty to their foreign policy to Obamacare, one of the things this president has been doing consistently throughout his 6 years in office has been to try to redefine the American dream. Now, what do I mean by that? You listen to this president's policies, you actually listen to his speeches, you look at his policies, he's trying to redefine the American dream to be all about redistribution, about government growth, about government dependence. I don't know about you, but every time I hear our president, it sounds like he's trying to divide us by age, by geography, by faith, by class, by gender. That's not the American dream that you and I learned about growing up. I don't know about you, but growing up, I learned about an America where the circumstances of your birth don't determine your outcomes as an adult. I learned about an America where you don't have to be born in the right zip code with the right parents to do great things in this country. I learned about an America where our best days are always ahead of us, not behind us. I learned these things from my parents. They came here over 40 years ago in search of the American dream. Now, one of the things that worries me greatly, we can reverse tax rates. We can repeal Obamacare. We can actually reverse burdensome regulations coming out of the EPA. But it's much harder, it's much more difficult to change the culture if this president is successful in teaching the next generation of Americans that the American dream is not about opportunity, not about growth. And that's what worries me. You look at for example, the record low participation rate in the workforce. You look at a government that has gotten so big and so large that you now have, for example, the IRS going after conservatories, the Department of Justice spying on reporters. You've got scandal after scandal, and you wonder, how did this happen? I would argue this is what happens when the federal government gets so large, so intrusive, and so expensive. You know, you've got an ideology on the left that says we as Americans aren't smart enough to live our own lives. They tell us we're not smart enough to have our Second Amendment rights to guns. We're not smart enough to have our First Amendment religious liberty rights. We're not smart enough to know what kind of health care insurance we should be buying for ourselves. We're not smart enough, if you happen to live in New York City, to drink a big gulp, according to the mayor, the former mayor of New York City. And it goes on and on and on. And that's what I think today's debate about the energy revolution and the EPA overreach is all about. It's about the collision of these two trends. It's the collision of the first trend where the president's trying to redefine the American dream to be more about dependence. And secondly, the second trend where the federal government is getting so big, so large, and so intrusive. Well, why do I say that? Well, we're in the middle of an energy revolution that can transform our economy, that can bring good-paying jobs to our economy. I don't just mean exploration and production jobs. Look, it's no accident that a governor of Louisiana or a governor of Texas would stand up and talk about energy jobs. But it's not just exploration and production jobs, it's also manufacturing jobs and downstream jobs. CF Industries making a huge investment in your state and my state to expand their fertilizer facilities. Billions of dollars being invested in fertilizer, in steel, in petrochemicals in our country. Reversing investments that have gone abroad, bringing good-paying jobs back to America because of affordable energy. And it's also not just an opportunity to bring millions of more jobs into our economy, it's also an opportunity to secure more energy security here at home. So we're not as dependent on other countries abroad. It's also an opportunity to free up Europe so they're not as dependent on Russia. Think about it. Falling energy prices, think about what they have done to Venezuela, Iran, and Russia, weakening their ability to cause mischief in world affairs. It's also an opportunity to lower energy prices and put more dollars in the average family's pockets. Just the energy revolution alone over the next 10, 20 years can increase median household income by 7% without more federal government spending, borrowing, or taxing. So let's stop and think about the potential we've got in the energy revolution. What if I were to tell you there's a country out there that has more oil, natural gas, and coal combined than any other country in the world? That'd be a pretty powerful country. What if I told you that same country had the most advanced renewable fuel technology compared to any other country in the world when it comes to biofuels and wind and solar? That'd be a pretty powerful country. Well, the great news is I'm not talking about China. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about the United States of America. We've been blessed with an abundance of energy, not only resources, but technology and innovation right here at home. That's the great news. And the great news is if we tap into those resources, we can add billions of dollars to our economy. We can add hundreds and thousands and millions of jobs in the private sector. We're talking about good-paying jobs. I'm talking about private sector jobs. Many of these blue-collar jobs pay $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. Many of these jobs don't require college degrees, but they do require skilled workers. In Louisiana, we have over $60 billion in private sector projects coming into our state. We literally have tens of thousands, 90,000 new jobs coming into our state. 7 years ago, our biggest challenge was that our kids were leaving the state faster than they were moving into Louisiana. 25 years in a row. Now we've had 7 years in a row of in-migration. Now we've got more jobs, more skilled jobs and available workers. We're working to train our people and bring people in to help fill those jobs, and that's a good problem to have. So the energy revolution has the opportunity to grow our economy, create great paying jobs, lower our dependence on foreign countries, especially if we embrace this North American energy marketplace. And that involves not just the Keystone Pipeline, but other opportunities to integrate our energy production and trading across North America. It'll be great for American companies. But, and there is a but because this isn't inevitable. But the but is what we're here to talk about, which is the overreach from the EPA. And I'm here to tell you that the regulations and the proposed regulations coming out from the EPA have already had a consequence on our economy. The Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce has already identified multiple projects that have decided not to come to Baton Rouge just because of the uncertainty of regulations coming out of the EPA, just because they don't know what the impact is going to be from the new ozone rules, just because they don't know what the new impact is going to be on the CO2 rules. And we still don't know what the final revisions are going to be on the water rules. The original proposals could have had awful impacts, giving Washington unprecedented control and influence over something as simple as the backyard of a farmer or others. And you look at this expansion of federal power and you think, what can we do about this? In Iowa and Louisiana, we're literally talking about billions of dollars out of our economy, Thousands of jobs we would lose, not because of competition, not because of the market, but because of the EPA and because of regulatory overreach. Well, we offered a paper. I spent a year and a half through American X, last year and a half, coming up with detailed policy proposals on education and school choice, on foreign policy, on health care, and how do you replace Obamacare. One of the proposals that we did was on energy. How does America harness the energy resources available to us? How do we become more energy independent? How do we create those good paying jobs? How do we stop the EPA? So several proposals to rein in the EPA, not only under this president's administration, but under future administrations as well. Number one, we should have a one project, one review rule, so that projects don't have to go through multiple hoops to get approval. Right now, it takes so long to get all the regulatory approvals that when you're trying to compete internationally, it makes it harder for American businesses and American companies to create those jobs and put those investments here at home rather than abroad. Secondly, the EPA shouldn't have the power to do any rule with a cost of over $100 million without the explicit approval of Congress. These unelected bureaucrats have taken power away from their elected representatives, the Congress, and instead are now imposing huge burdens on our economy. And by the way, I want the EPA to tell us when they get to $100 million. I want that to be an independent third-party analysis. Third, I think that it's very important that the EPA actually be required, and I say the EPA, and I mean all these regulatory agencies, I think it's very important they be required to do cost-benefit analyses before they impose rules. Any rules. Now that seems like a pretty commonsensical idea, and yet there are many instances where they are now exempted. They don't have to do these cost-benefit analyses. Could you imagine in the private sector being able to propose burdensome regulations saying we have no idea whether the benefits are anywhere near worth the cost we're now imposing on other people? I think these kinds of common sense, straightforward reforms, and we had 42 specific ideas in our energy paper. These are just 3 or 4 out of that paper, are the kinds of reforms we need to rein in the EPA. We need to rein in, whether it's the ozone, CO2, or the water regulations, to make sure they're not damaging this economy, to make sure they're not standing in the way of this energy revolution. Now, I'm not optimistic. I'd love to tell you that in the last 2 years of this presidency, I think that President Obama is all of a sudden going to see the light. He gave a State of the Union speech a little while ago where he was bragging about the increased production of oil and gas and energy in America. And I remarked at the time, it's a little bit like the rooster taking credit for the sun coming up every morning. He didn't acknowledge the fact that that energy production was happening despite, not because of his administration policies. It's happening on private lands, not federal lands. The production is actually declining on federal lands, not increasing. So I'm not optimistic this president will all of a sudden see the light and produce those opportunities in the private sector. So in the meantime, governors across this country were taking the EPA to court. We're objecting to these rules, we're pointing out the faulty data and assumptions they're using. But make no mistake about it, it is having real-life consequences today. As I close, I want to share with you a very specific example, and I applaud you for coming together to talk about energy, talk about the EPA, and talk about the impact this is having on our economy. This is not just theory. My first year in office, Nucor, one of America's largest steel companies, came to me and said that they were interested in building a modern new steel facility. It would be one of the largest, most expensive investments their company had ever made. All said, it would be 5 phases. Over $3 billion in investment, over 1,000 jobs. Average paying these jobs over $70,000. These are highly skilled, highly paid, blue-collar jobs. This was about the time that the Great Recession was hitting our country. And you can imagine these are exactly the kinds of jobs you would want in Iowa, you would want in Louisiana, you would want in America. The interesting thing is my competition wasn't Iowa or Texas or Georgia or any other state. The CEO told me we were competing with Brazil. He said they were thinking about putting this plant overseas, but they were willing to consider putting it in America. Well, we worked long and hard, and we convinced them that Louisiana was a great place for them to make this investment. We showed them why we thought they should build it in St. James Parish on the Mississippi River. Well, I still remember after several months, there was an election, there was a new president, and the CEO came to me and said, "Governor, you've convinced me if we build this in America, we should build it in St. James Parish." He said, "Well, we are so worried about the uncertainty coming out of the EPA that we need to reevaluate whether we build this plant in America or not." Now, the good news is they've completed the initial phases in Louisiana. But I want you to think about something. How many opportunities were lost because of that delay, that uncertainty? And I also want you to think about what would have been gained. That plant was going to get built one way or the other. It wasn't they were going to not build the steel plant. They were either going to build it in America or they were going to build it overseas. And I'm going to close by pointing out that the left sometimes misses this point in this debate. Nobody benefits if we export these jobs. Nobody benefits if we export these opportunities to other countries. One study says we have closed the gap with China. The manufacturing cost gap's down about 5%. It's not inevitable that those good-paying jobs have to go to China and overseas. It's not inevitable that this next century belongs to any other country other than America. We can still compete. But part of competing is having affordable energy. And I reject anybody that tells you we have to choose between a clean environment and affordable energy. I'm here to tell you we can have affordable energy. We can have a strong economy, and we can have a clean environment. I'd actually argue a stronger economy is better for a cleaner environment. I'd actually argue our environmental controls are stronger in America than they are overseas. So sending these manufacturing jobs overseas is no way to help the environment. It is no way to create prosperity. It is no way to create opportunities. I joked, this president, he talked about being a citizen of the world when he was first running for office. I joked once on a TV program, well, I guess I misunderstood him. Because when he said he was creating jobs, I just assumed he meant he was creating jobs in America, not everywhere else but America. But if we're not careful, the EPA's regulations, its overreach, its policies, aren't going to just have theoretical harm and impact on our economy. They're absolutely going to cost us jobs and opportunities right here at home. I'll close with this observation. I started by saying that this was a bigger debate. It was about defining the American dream and the opportunities we inherited from our parents. I think what this debate is really about is what kind of opportunity, what kind of American dream do we leave to our children and grandchildren. I would never bet against the American worker, the American entrepreneur, the American economy. But we shouldn't burden the American worker, the entrepreneur, the economy with unnecessary regulations, unnecessary heavyweight coming out of Washington, D.C. That's why this debate is so important, to produce good-paying jobs for Iowans, for Louisianians, for our children and grandchildren. God bless y'all, and thank y'all very much for letting me come talk about this very important topic.
Just pulling it down to tip my juice. I'm still good to go.
Our final speaker needs a little introduction here in Iowa. In 2012, he visited all 99 counties and held 381 town hall meetings across the state. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum is the grandson of a coal miner. He served 4 years in the House of Representatives and 12 in the U.S. Senate. Senator Santorum is now the co-founder of Patriot Voices, a grassroots and online community committed to restoring the American dream for hardworking families. The senator and his wife Karen have a new book out, Bella's Gift, about the inspiring story of life with the Santorum's special needs youngest child. Please join me in welcoming former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's fun just listening a little bit of what Rick had to say and Bobby had to say. It's actually encouraging to follow two very accomplished governors who we all share the same thing. There are issues that there are lots of disagreements on in looking at the 2016 potential field. And I think energy is one where there's generally common agreement. There are some differences. Obviously, here in Iowa, the renewable fuels standard is a big difference, and I'm someone who's been a very strong proponent of that as a way to provide market access and to have a strategy that says we're going to include all sources of energy, that we want to make America energy independent, and we need to use all areas of the country and all sectors of our economy to be able to do that. Why? Because it's so important. If you look at every measure of what has the biggest impact on the economy, affordable energy by far and away, if you look across the globe, if you see a country that has affordable, stable energy supplies, you're going to see a country that by and large is doing well economically. And certainly it has been the engine of growth and opportunity here in America. We have been blessed, one of the few countries in the world that has been blessed with ample supplies of energy. And the key is, can we have a policy that keeps those energy prices low and the availability of them stable. And we have, as I heard Governor Jindal say, we have a regulatory process driven by this administration that is making it more difficult for that to happen. You probably have noticed in the last 6 or 8 months that President Obama's favorability ratings have actually gone up. And all the folks who have looked at that, even during a time when, arguably he's had some rough waters, particularly overseas, yet his numbers have gone up. The only reason, according to all the pollsters, have said the only reason is energy prices went down, gas prices went down. Why? Because if you're an average American, you're making in and around the average salary. By the way, the average salary in America, the median income in America, has gone down over the last 8 years. It used to be $56,000 a year. It's now $51,000 a year. So people are feeling the squeeze. When you hear there's a squeeze going on in the middle of America, it's real. It's real. Wages are stagnant. Median income is going down. And so when you see a $1.50 reduction in energy prices at the pump, what does that mean? If you're a moderate income, lower to moderate income American, a little bit below the average, you spend 40% of your disposable income on energy. And so when that price goes down precipitously, like 30 to 40%, that has a bottom line value to you that a lot of Americans don't recognize. Certainly a lot of folks in Washington and certainly this administration don't recognize how important it is for the folks who are struggling in America. And it's not just on the energy consumption side. It's also on what low stable energy prices will do for what Bobby just talked about, which is so critical, which is our manufacturing economy. About 4 years ago, I was down in Burlington at Weingarten and I introduced a whole manufacturing plant. What we could do to get America back in making things again. And I said, the key element of that is energy. Affordable, stable energy is the key for bringing American manufacturing jobs back. Well, that was 4 years ago, and I was citing a study that was a couple years old by that time that was done by the National Association of Manufacturers. And they said that we had a 20% cost differential, disadvantage, I should say, with our top 5 competitors, export competitors. And guess what? You heard Bobby say that number is down to 5% today. You know what the reason for almost every point of that decrease? Energy prices. Energy prices around 2007, 2008 were much higher than they are now. We have had a fracking revolution that everybody's familiar with. We've had oil and gas drilling. We've had ethanol expansion and costs going down. All of those things have happened that has made energy more affordable in America today, in spite of an administration that is doing anything they can to stop it from flourishing on all public lands. In spite of an EPA. I want to share with you, I know Bobby talked about generalities. Let me talk about a specific EPA regulation. I read this the other day, almost blew my mind. You may be familiar with the regulation that's going to hit power plants. Again, I'm the grandson of a coal miner. Grew up in coal country. Worked when I was in the United States Senate on the Abandoned Mine Reclamation Program, the Orphan Miners Programs. I was deeply and steeply involved in getting coal country an opportunity to survive. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you travel around this country, you go to the coal patches in America. Those coal patches in America are hurting. You go to West Virginia, Kentucky, Southern Ohio, Southwestern Pennsylvania, Southern Illinois. You go to those areas in Tennessee and places where the mines are, you'll see fewer and fewer people than there were 50 years ago, and you'll see high rates of unemployment. You'll see you'll see difficulties. Why? Because we have had a war in this country against affordable energy, and the focal point of that war has been on coal and been on electric generation. And one of those areas that we just saw the administration push forward with, it's now in court, which is the mercury regulations. They want to reduce mercury emissions, I should say, not regulate, mercury emissions by 75% at a cost of $9.6 billion. $9.6 billion. The EPA claims the direct health impacts in doing so. This is where you get into this cost-benefit analysis. The direct health impact by reducing mercury emissions. And by the way, American 1,400 power plants produce 0.3% of all mercury emissions in the world. Mercury, unlike other pollutants, do not just go in the air and fall on the ground. They travel thousands of miles. So you're talking about a a pollutant that is not just going to fall in proximity to where the plants are. These travel from country to country, and in some cases they're in the atmosphere for years before they fall to the ground. And so what does the EPA say is the health benefit? They have calculated that the health benefit has to do with pregnant women and their children. And what they have calculated is that mercury, if women eat fish, women who are pregnant who eat fish, can transfer some of this mercury to their offspring. And here's the calculation they made. The average woman in America, consumes 5 ounces of ocean and lake fish a week. According to the EPA and their calculation, to come up with a $6 million, not $6 billion, but $6 million direct health benefit, they have come up that says that this is their assumption, that pregnant women in America will consume not 5 ounces, but 6 pounds. 6 pounds of lake fish, not lake and ocean fish, that they caught themselves, that's not been processed, that they processed. So women in America, 6% of all women in America, they concentrate in and around the Great Lakes area. So if you're a Minnesotan woman, 21% of Minnesota women who are pregnant fish for 6 pounds of food a week that they consume. This is the standard which they set up to come up with what calculation? Well, these women, these fisherwomen, who are out there on Lake Superior, catching fish, filleting it and eating themselves, they're going to pass on mercury to their children. And that mercury passed on to their children will produce, ready for this, a 0.009 point reduction in their IQ. Now, just for the record, IQ tests have a variability of 5 points either way. But EPA is saying this 0.009 point reduction in IQ is going to cost them, these children, $2,000 in economic income over the course of their life. And you multiply that out, that's $6 million. And for that, we need to spend $9.6 billion. And as we all know, shut down coal as a source of fuel for our electric generation. That's ultimately what they want. This is what I have said many times, that the environmental regulations that we're seeing come out of this administration have nothing to do with science. This is like a quasi-religious crusade for them. This is something they want. They want to eliminate fossil fuels. They don't care about the impact of my grandfather's friends in the coal industry. They don't care about Kentucky and West Virginia and the people who are hurting already because the mine's being shut down. They don't care about affordable energy so we can have manufacturing jobs, so the 75% of Americans who don't have a college degree can make things and provide for themselves and their family. They don't care about you going to the filling station, the come and go, and getting affordable energy so you have more money to spend on your family. They don't care about any of that. This is all about a mission that has nothing to do with working men and women in this country. It has nothing to do about seniors on a fixed income. It has to do about a crusade that is not based on science. It's based on the way the world they want to see in their future. That's why it's important that in this discussion that we have this issue. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today. Thank you for the opportunity to lay out an agenda that is actually one that creates an opportunity for everybody in America. We see so much talk, and it's legitimate. We see so much talk about the hollowing out of the middle of America. We can fill that up. We can create opportunity. We can deal with the income inequality, which is real, by restoring the vital center of America through making things in America, through having energy. And the job, the average minor job in America is $82,000 a year, compared to the median income was at $50,000. Right? We're talking about real good-paying jobs that create wealth and sustain communities. I don't know about your state, although I've been to every county in the state, and I think I can say that I know a little bit about Iowa. But I know when I travel around Iowa, the poorest counties in Iowa are not Polk County, right? Not Scott County, not Story County, not Dubuque. They're Adams County, right? They're up in Keokuk, down in Lee County. Those are the areas that are rural, small town, industrial, and struggling. And it's the same as it is in Pennsylvania. We are fortunate in Pennsylvania, just like you are here in Iowa because of ethanol. We are fortunate in Pennsylvania. We have Marcellus Shale, and some of our poorest counties are now doing well. Some of our farmers who are struggling the most are now doing just great because they have the opportunity to profit from a gas that's locked in shale underneath them. It's transformed our economy. It's allowed small town America to thrive again, just like it has, ethanol has here. Let's give small town and rural America a chance. Let's stop playing this quasi-global game of trying to constrain growth and stop the use of the energy resources we have. And as Bobby said, and I say it all the time, you go to any place where an economy is struggling. If you went to the old Soviet Union, you went to Eastern Europe, you looked at the decay in their economy, and guess what else you saw? The worst environmental laws anywhere in the world. You need a strong economy, so you have the, in a sense, the opportunity, and even somebody would say the luxury of having a clean environment. Survival is first. A strong economy is a strong environment. And that's what strong and affordable energy will provide America. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
I want to thank you all for coming out today. A special thank you to America's Power for sponsoring this event. And thank you to all our speakers, Congressman Young, Governor Perry, Governor Jindal, and Senator Santorum. Thank you all for coming out.
I don't know if this is it, but... keep my stream up.
These guys come out, they get them out. Hey, Richard, good to see you. Good show.
Thanks for all your work on the firearms bill.
We're still working. We're still working. We're back at the Senate. You gonna vote yet? Are we playing ping pong? House Senate. We're back
I'm just gonna...
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Good. Vegetarian wrap. Okay, this is... There's still lunch boxes here. I'm just out here in this area. Used to be the central area where people would come to check out their books or return them, or just access other areas at the library. There's actually a card catalog in here. There are no public computers. And it's just all around in the room that I was in. Plus, up there were the book stacks. And of course, down in the basement, there's also book stacks and a newspaper room, magazine room, things like that. But I'm just going to hang around here, see if I can pick up anything.
Can I help you with something?
Oh no, I'm just looking around. I have not been in this building since it was a library.
Yeah. They did a beautiful job.
Yeah, I am glad that it was preserved.
Yeah.
Because I used to frequent this library a lot.
It's a beautiful building.
And I was concerned about the floor insert. Yeah, the center was glass when it was a library, so they must have replaced that with the solid piece.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like the original. The original had a crack.
Ah, that's a little scary.
But because it's such a thick piece of glass, it's made to support the weight of people on it. But the original glass was clear and not as opaque as this. You could actually see down into the basement.
That would make me a little nervous.
People loved it. That was a great feature. That was very popular. The lighting in here is not quite as bright as that other room that I was in. So I'm just going to hang out here and see if maybe I can capture some questions and conversations. So I'm going to keep this up for a little while. People are just chatting. I haven't picked up any hard-hitting questions yet. Sorry?
So sorry.
Ooh, chocolate. I gotta have some chocolate. Stealing nibbles off this table. I might, when I get out of here, I might grab one of these lunch boxes. Yeah, there's vegetarian on this table.
Oh, well, I'm not going to take that.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
asked us to take them back to the office, so he said, okay, we'll do it.
Well, not this one.
No, you can have that one.
I decided to go ahead and steal a lunchbox. There's still the unclaimed ones. I'm just now grabbing one because I was too busy. I was concentrating on my stream.
What was that? I told Yeah, Ray Davis asked us to take that something he wanted to go. You don't want to leave. I would like to. Days in the legislature, so. Well, check out a
Go take my juice. I'm still good to go. I've got a couple of cops in here.
Again, it's different. Well, look, it's not a belief. I mean, this shouldn't be a belief. This should be based on facts. And there are other scientists who look at. Yeah, again, it's like saying 90% of Exxon scientists say that this is the case, but it is. It's those who are supporting this point of view are the ones funding these scientists. So there's lots of information that say that we need to look and be concerned about the environment as I
And me.
What is a responsible way to address those issues?
Have time for one more question? Well, so you know there is no such thing. It's a theory. Hopefully someday there is no, unless you sequester CO2.
Well, that's you say CO2 is a pollutant. It's not. Okay, CO2 is a pollutant, and we're polluting everything.
If you're going to come to Iowa, I think you should respect Iowa scientists. 180 Iowa scientists have signed a letter saying it does. We'd love to have them sit down with you.
I don't doubt that the earth is warmer, the earth is colder. It never stays the same.
That's why we're concerned. The first thing I wear is he claiming you?
We'll see. All right. Thanks for your time.
He is leaving, so I captured some conversations.
I'm sorry.
Can I come too?
Yeah. No. Okay. Let me just turn this on. I'd love to talk to you. I'm Sarah Booth from Iowa Public Radio. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Clay Pascal. I'm a volunteer with the League Conservation Voters.
And what did you think today?
I was a little bit disappointed. I think the candidates, they really didn't touch on, they kind of alluded to wind energy, but they didn't really talk as much about how we can increase wind and solar energy production, be more energy efficient in those ways. I think they concentrate a little bit too much on natural gas, which I think is a good way to, I mean, natural gas is good, but it still has carbon emissions. And I also thought that Rick Santorum's fish story was, while it was amusing, I think he didn't touch on how the mercury standards will prevent thousands of asthma attacks, heart attacks, and premature deaths. So I was disappointed in that as well.
Regulations too burdensome? In your ideal world, what do you want the EPA to do?
Well, the EPA is, they see the candidates were portraying it as, or prospective candidates anyway, they were portraying it as like a one-size-fits-all thing, but in reality, the EPA's Clean Power Plan, it's all the states get to customize it in a way that makes it so it fits their energy needs. So, for example, here in Iowa, we already have like a quarter of our energy from wind production, so we can increase that in order to cut our carbon emissions by 30% by 2030 as mandated by the plan. It's not, the plan isn't saying you have to do it this way in order to meet that goal. It gives us more than a decade to get to that fairly reasonable goal of 30%.
Sorry. So it sounds like you don't really agree with any of the three gentlemen who spoke today. So what brought you out today?
Well, I wanted to meet them and see what they had to say. It's good to see what folks have to say if you don't agree with them. And I was hoping to talk with them and see why they were opposed to these regulations and what alternative they would have to increasing to helping public health, not the EPA regulations, but how are we going to reduce the emission of pollutants into the air, such as acid gases and mercury.
So do you feel like you got your answers from their speeches?
No, not really. They didn't really lay out an alternative to the EPA regulations. They just kind of bashed them and said we should get rid of them. They didn't really lay out an alternative to cutting carbon and stemming climate change.
Do you mind if you just spell your last name?
Yeah, sure. Pasquale, Pasqual.
And are you from Illinois?
I'm a college student, Drake University.
Okay, what's your major?
Politics.
Okay, so today was right up your alley.
Yes, indeed. It's quite entertaining.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, really exciting.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just captured an interview. I'm going to roam around a little bit more, pick up some more conversations.
No. It was another photographer who coincidentally looks like me. I was in Arizona.
Your twin.
I just got back.
He was your twin.
Did vacation the rest of the week. I said, it's raining. I can't do any yard work. I'll come back to work and I'll save it once a week.
You know, everybody has a twin.
They do.
Yep.
I happen to work with one. The people get us confused all the time.
I didn't capture anything I thought I would, but at least got to hear the political spin that those three were wanting to make, and so anyone who watches this later will hear that they're towing the corporate line. I'm going back in here.
Where did she go?
She's probably over there somewhere.
Yeah, there's some people back there.
It's media, so.
Yeah. That's where I was hanging out until I moved in front of the stage.
Say the word climate climate change once.
You know, in some places, governors.
I saw you at Bernie Sanders, man. Back at Drake, back in February.
Did I do Bernie Sanders? No, I think I was elsewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I was streaming something else.
Or maybe it was what was it? That reporter, Charlie Cook. You did that?
No, I don't look like Charlie Cook, whoever he is.
I mean, no. I thought at the event. All right. Well, I've seen you somewhere before.
Yeah, probably another action.
Okay.
But I was elsewhere instead of doing a Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
I think I saw you at the Waterworks.
Yeah.
meeting that they have.
Yeah, I've gone to one of those. A couple of those actually. I've gone to the Waterworks meetings.
Yeah.
But I missed the last one because I had something else to do. On Fridays, I have my commitment. I go to the mosque every Friday.
Documentary about cancer.
Oh, really?
Pretty important.
Yeah.
Well, you got billions of dollars. I mean, you can do good stuff too. So.
All right, I think we're gonna take off.
Yeah. Okay.
Want to head out together? Nice to meet you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go ahead and shut my stream down because there's really nothing else happening here. But before I do that, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to encourage you to support your local streamers. Give me a kick in the GoFundMe or kick in the PayPal. Ooh, another lunchbox. I might grab both of these. Steal. I'm stealing. What class would that be? Oh, you're not going to bother? Chicken livers. Just had to have a little. I saw another sandwich box. I'm stealing. Well, those cops aren't hassling you for these lunch boxes. As I said before I started, I want to have a little fun with those cops, teasing them about the lunch boxes. To encourage you to support the streamers. And I have a GoFundMe. It's www.gofundme.com/OccupierKaylin. That's KAYLYNN. Again, www.gofundme.com/OccupierKaylin. Or you can go to www.paypal.com and in the send money to line, enter the email address strainSOP@AOL.com. Again, www.paypal.com and in the send money to line, enter the email address strainSOP@AOL.com. That will help me cover the cost of my live streaming and broadcasting so I can continue to bring you these events live and unedited when I go outside. Thanks. And currently I'm the only streamer working here in Des Moines, but I hope to get some others on it. But do check out my GoFundMe or PayPal, and kick me a little if you can. If you can't afford it, then spread the word, pass my channel around, pass my donation sites around, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the